Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Chris Muirhead. I'm a account manager at DMS Vinyl, and I'll try and keep this as interesting as I possibly can. Sustainability in vinyl and CD manufacturing. Strap in. Okay, so DMS Vinyl, we are based in Plymouth in Devon, Britain's ocean city, surrounded by beaches on one side and the moorland on the other side. So we get up close and personal with plastic waste quite regularly. There's all sorts of beach cleanups and stuff that we sort of chip in with, and things that just sort of hammer home how bad it is here, let alone some places on the planet it is just intolerable. So what can we do about that? We are, oh, hang on. So we are an independent vinyl, CD, cassette, DVD, and merch manufacturer with 25 years of experience in the industry. The team is made up of creatives, so we're musicians, booking agents, gig goers, promoters. We're all in bands. So we're passionate about music, and we're passionate about making records that are part of a positive story in the world. So sustainability, why does it matter? For lots of obvious reasons. Streaming's high CO2 emissions are only going to rise. The platforms don't seem hugely interested, and they do want to incorporate video because that's how they drive more engagement, which we totally understand. But it does mean that everybody else has to be better. And let's address the elephant in the room. Vinyl records are made from plastic, polyvinyl chloride, PVC to be precise. And while that is a durable plastic compound and not single use, it is a plastic. And we are the bulk of most merchandise in the music industry is made from virgin vinyl, virgin plastic. That means we're manufacturing new pellets, we're manufacturing new plastic. So how do we change this? All right, so next. Many artists also need to have their records shrink wrapped because a lot of the distributors require shrink wrap because of the way the warehousing works. And so DMS have been engaged in sort of a few years now, at least 10 years, trying to push the plastic issue into the forefront and work out how we can improve things. So the options. How do we make records sustainably? We've kind of basically tried to break the whole process down into sections in terms of every band has a budget constraint, they have a time constraint, they have concept constraints, but if they've got options and more people use those options, the prices will come down. So I'm just going to go through a load of them. I will try and keep this interesting. But basically, Wide Days have invited us here to talk to you about what these steps are. So let's go for it. Creating the stampers. So simple start. Things don't need to be posted anymore. We don't need physical CDs. If you're getting a lacquer pressing done, then yes, we will need to use post for that. But if you're going for direct metal mastering, we can accept digital audio, and we can work with you to make sure that that's supplied in a correct way so that you get the best possible audio output. Direct metal mastering, compared to processing lacquers, does use a lower amount of chemicals as well, and energy in the manufacturing process. And because it only uses metal, that can be recycled over and over again. One of the problems with lacquers is the plate is coated with this stuff that makes it very difficult to recycle. Lacquers are very cool for certain types of music. They're incredible, and we're not going to get away from that. But if it doesn't really matter, go for direct metal mastering. Step 2, test pressings. So test pressings are kind of essential. Once you've worked with a pressing plant for a long time and you get to know the cutting engineer, you can preempt what it's going to sound like, what the music that you've worked on for months and months and months. It needs to go through a transfer process. We're taking something that's predominantly digital and turning it into something physical. So certain tweaks, they're microscopic tweaks, but they are tweaks, sometimes need to happen so that the equipment that is used to cut your masses and stuff doesn't get damaged, because the equipment can heat up very quickly. So high frequencies can sometimes be sort of rolled off slightly. Bass always needs to be monoed, things like that. But the output is, the changes are imperceptible to most human hearing, but test pressings are a way to check it. You know, you spent all this time and money getting the music right. Let's check 5 units before going ahead to pressing hundreds that might be wrong and need to be redone, which is a huge amount of unnecessary CO2. There is also the option of digital recordings of the test pressings, rather than us posting them from wherever we are to wherever you are. We can record them. We can record the test pressing and just email that to you. You know, that's you are going to be hearing what the record sounds like. So that is also an option and saves you a bit of time. So the records. Right. The way the records are made is by using a PVC puck, usually about the size of a hockey puck. The labels are then, I was supposed to bring some stuff to show you, but I totally forgot. So it's like a hockey puck sized bit of plastic, put the labels on each side, and then that is squished at high temperatures, very high pressure, and the metal disc kind of pushes those microscopic grooves into the record. So yeah, when it comes out of the press, you've effectively got like a squished pancake. There's all this kind of wavy plastic on the outside. Every single record is trimmed, so it's a perfect circle. Obviously, that means there's a lot of that scrap. It doesn't sound like a lot, but once because we're doing thousands and thousands a week, that built up. Also, some units, because the groove is so thin, if anything happens to those grooves whilst it's warm, it's ruined. You know, you get like a bit of dust in a groove, the record will not play correctly. A bit of dust in the stamper, and when that bit of dust gets into the stamper, all the records after that pressing are no good, because nobody wants to have a big chunky hole in their record. So all that plastic back in the day would have just gone in the bin. Now, obviously, we melt it back down. So that is where EcoMix records come from. This was a bit ropey to start with a few years ago, but now it's great. It's a brilliant way to have an alternative to black records. Black records are your audiophile option. I'm not an audiophile. There are a lot of people that are audiophiles, but some people aren't, and they want to get the eco version. That's what I often do. There's a black variant, eco variant, some funky variant. I'll generally go for the eco variant, just because I know what that's doing. It's reducing the waste. So, yeah. If you don't want a Lucky Dip vinyl, if you actually do want one of the cool variants, or you want black, you can also go for bio-attributed compound, which is basically, instead of using regular PVC, we use a bio-attributed compound which is produced using ethylene from second-generation bio-based feedstock, which is cooking oil, almost always, which is obviously instead of fossil-based materials. The calculated CO2 footprint reduction of bio-attributed compound is 90%. It's, you know, you're reducing the need to burn fuel a huge degree. And it can be applied to any vinyl color or effect without altering its appearance, and still getting the kind of lesser risk to audio interference. Basically, virgin vinyl, the brand new plastic, that is a perfect homogeneous plastic. So the needle running along the groove has nothing to bump into at a microscopic level. As soon as other things are added in, the risk of the needle hitting something does increase, which could give you a little bit of surface noise. Personally, I don't care, but because I've got records from the 1930s. They sound amazing. Some people really want their records to sound like CDs for some reason, so it's an important thing to think about for your fans. The printed sleeves, there's so many options now for packaging. It's wild. But as more elaborate options come in, sometimes that incorporates plastic hot foiling, plastic laminations. And whilst these things look amazing and might suit your concept perfectly, it is something to consider. The paper and card record sleeves, we can obviously use recycled card, which we can do, but it creates some more considerations in terms of how the ink takes. So we only offer FSC certified card stocks as our kind of normal card stock. So if any new card is being used, it is from the Forest Stewardship. This is a bit of a tongue twister. The Forest Stewardship Council, which basically audits all the materials from start to finish and make sure that any of those trees are treated properly and replanted, etc. We do now only print with raw plant-based inks, which do not contain any cobalt or mineral oils. These were things that were kind of standard a few years ago, but again, that is something that is slowly being eked out of the system, and that's where we need to be heading. The more and more we do the right thing, the cheaper it gets. Simple as that, really. The more we choose the cheaper option, the longer it will continue being the cheaper, worse option. Our standard sleeve finishes are water-based dispersion varnishes rather than, as they were back in the day, more plastic. Okay, so let's crack on because we've only got a few minutes left. Shipping protection, shrink wrap. Basically, you might have to get shrink wrap. Your distributor might demand shrink wrap. And that sometimes it's really important. There is the option of poly over bags, which means you can pack the vinyl behind the outer sleeve. It's really good for us getting the boxes of records to you without the very sharp record cutting the card seams, which happens all the time. But it's also for your mail order. Ideally, you're handing the record to the fan at the merch table. But if you're not, if you are sending them to America, to South Korea, to wherever, they're going to go into a mailer and they're going to go into the hand of a postman who is busy and rushed, So shaking that record, the plastic will split along the seams. So what you can do is pack it behind the outer sleeve in the poly bag. Then the end user gets a poly bag out of it as well, which we all, nerds like me, I don't care surface noise, but I do like a well-kept sleeve. There is also bio wrap now, which again used to be a bit ropey, but is now amazing. You can't even tell that it's not shrink wrap, and it's made of what is it made of? Tall oil from coniferous trees. So there's no plastic in it. Vegetable oils, and it's basically it reduces the plastic content to almost zero. So that's a good option. That is apparently now preferred to all sugarcane options as well, because the sugarcane, there's issues with the production of that. So delivery, is that my time? Okay. Delivery, obviously records are big, bulky fellas. And it is important to get this stage right. So we can organize all of your splits in terms of you need some to go to, if you're a small band and you just need them sent to you, then all our boxes are recycled, that sort of thing. We've tried to kind of get it to the point where if you are just a small band and you just need your 200 records to your house, we'll try and do that as cheaply and as sustainably as possible. But if you are slightly bigger and you need some to go into the EU, some to go over to Australia, some to go to America or whatever, we can do that split for you. So you don't have to get all of these units coming into the UK to then be distributed. We can kind of help you with that. Yeah, we primarily ship by road as well, which is cheaper than air, unless it is going to the US. So that's something to sort of consider if you need them super quick. We will obviously ship by air if that's what you need, because they need to be in a location for a tour or whatever. Yeah, and I think that's basically it. If there's any questions, I'm Chris. So I'm an account manager, which means I deal with labels, band members, management, that sort of thing, through the whole process to a certain extent. But I'm not a graphic designer. I'm also not really an audio engineer. So there's audio engineers that I work with, but I can answer general questions. Marcus over there, he's a graphic designer. So he helps process all the art and give you advice about how you take your concept and make it look really cool on the packaging. So any questions like that for him. But other than that, if there's any questions you have, let me know.
Hi. I was just wondering, you mentioned about lacquers and some genres of music. It really matters. And I was wondering which genres and which genres don't matter so much.
So, oh God. So this is a like a never-ending argument that happens within vinyl sort of circles. I My general view from a pragmatic point of view is if you've got a record that is shorter than 20 minutes per side, and you want it a bit louder, and you like the warmer sound. Now I put that in quote marks because personally, maybe I've been to too many gigs, okay, but we've done a few tests where we cut a record with a lacquer and DMM, and the difference, I can't hear it. People purport to be able to hear it, and that there's a warmer tone. Now, some of that will be because of effectively less potential roll off in the areas that are sometimes imperceptible to human hearing. Lacquers, you don't need to roll off quite so much, but the roll off isn't that big, but it is there. So audiophiles that have, I've got a friend with a turntable record, like a amp and turntable setup that's worth 200 grand. So when you put a record on his turntable and you play it, it's a different experience to my setup at home. Yeah, you know. But so like in that setting, the difference will be possible to discern. That kind of richer, warmer, but with richer and warmer, that means slightly fuzzier. So if you're making certain types of dance music or certain types of punk or certain types of, if you want like clarity that is maybe a little bit more on the harsh side, then DMM definitely. If you want it, you know, maybe there's certain types of folk where the lacquer might improve the situation, but it's an audiophile discussion. I'm not an audiophile, but we'll work with you if you were to need something. One of the audio engineers can go through it on a phone call with you for an hour.
Thanks.
Any others? Cool. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's very, very nice to be here. Have a lovely rest of your weekend.